What's going on, YouTube? Back at it again. Today I'm bringing you another build guide. This one I think is going to be super fun. So this one's going to be really good in PvP. It's fun to do, fun to use in solo. I wouldn't take it into expeditions necessarily. If you're wanting to run musket, spear, and expeditions, I would run the other spear, the spear in my other video. And then on the flip side of that, if you're wanting to rather run the same spear build as this, but a bow, I would use the bow for my other spear bow build, just because that bow is, in my opinion, the best bow build in the game. The spear goes back and forth. The spear, this one's going to be good for PvP. That other one was probably going to be better for dungeons and excavations and things like that. But it is super fun to solo with. All that being said, I do want to thank everybody for all the support on the last couple videos, all the people that have left comments and either positive or negative. They help me a ton to grow the channel and things like that. And as always, you know, a lot of the gameplay you're going to see here was recorded live on Twitch, and that's every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday that I stream. So if you do want to catch the streams live, I'll put a link in the description, as well as the link right there above me. So with all that out of the way, let's talk about the gear first, and then we can switch over to the attributes. So currently I am running light. I would suggest running light here. That 20% extra damage is going to be huge, and we're going to get a lot of constitution anyway to make up for it. But anything of the brigand or of the warden is what I would suggest running here. So of the brigand, dex, constitution, with dex being the primary stat. Of the warden, dex, constitution still, but constitution is the primary stat. Anything to get yourself to 100 constitution and then push the rest into dexterity, it's going to work out for you. So then we're obviously running musket. This could be better rolled. We could have dex here instead of strength, or we could have constitution instead of strength, either or, and we'd be good. But I do suggest putting an onyx gem in your gun or your bow, whichever one you're running. 15% extra damage to full health targets. That opening shot is going to do so much more damage. And then we're running the spear. This isn't anything special. If you were looking for specific traits for this, I would run empowered. Are you fucking kidding me? So now let's talk about the attributes for this build. Right now, currently, I'm running like a 3-2. So every 2 points of constitution, I'm putting like 3 in dex. Once you get to 100, I honestly would just push this. I could respec. I just don't want to pay the like 300 gold. But once you get the increased max health by 10% of your physical armor, that's super strong, as well as all health consumables are 20% stronger. Both those things are going to be super beneficial. It's just going to give us a little bit more survivability, especially in PvP. For the dex, I mean, anything in here is going to be great, right? Crit chance, good for both. Thrust damage, good for both the musket and the spear. The dodge costs 10% or 10 less. You're going to be dodging a lot, or you should be dodging a lot in this build, so this is important. And then 10% bonus to backstab and headshot damage. That's going to be huge as well once we get that. So that is the gear and the attributes. I'm going to throw some gameplay up. I do have a couple duels in there as well, but mainly just solo gameplay. Like I said, I don't feel like running around flagged and constantly getting killed by groups of 60s that are running around playing the game together right now. I'll have more PvP content to come out once I hit 60 and I start grinding that a little bit more. So let's start by talking about the musket. So you're gonna have the sharpshooter tree, you're gonna have the trapper tree. Trapper tree. Just sounds weird. 2 of these abilities in this on the musket I think are mandatory. They're very strong. The third one that I'm going to tell you, you could probably flex it for something else, depending on your playstyle, what you want to run, etc. But I'll show you what I run, and then you can kind of make the decision for yourself. So the first skill we're going to take that's I think is mandatory is powder burn. So this is going to overload the musket with gunpowder, causing the next shot to deal 110% weapon damage. And then it applies a burn status effect that causes 20% weapon damage every second for 9 seconds. This is just a very, very strong dot. It's one of the strongest dots, I think, in the game, because you can also amplify it. So we're going to take the 2 nodes underneath of it, which is going to be backdraft. So now standard musket shots deal 12% additional damage to targets on fire. So anybody with that powder burn on them, they're going to take 12% more damage. And then we're going to take chronic trauma. So if powder burn is a headshot, it extends that burn from 9 seconds to 13 seconds. Just extends that window of extra damage. It's always going to be good for us. The next one we take in the sharpshooter tree, this is the one that I think you could flex. So I take shooter stance. Player enters an aiming stance, enhanced performance. Shots deal 100% weapon damage, so you don't deal any extra damage when you're in this stance. But when you're in this stance, mobility is reduced to 0. You can't move, but your reload speed is increased by 75, or is reduced by 75%. I'm sorry, increased would be kind of bad. And then I take shoot more. So this allows you to shoot 5 shots when in that mode rather than 3. So this is the ability that I think can be subbed out here. You could run power shot. That's another really good one if you wanted some extra CC, because if you wanted, say you want the musket to be kind of your main damage dealer and the thing that is like what you run the most, you could run stopping power. That's going to give you a little bit of knockback and stagger and let you get away and do all this stuff. So the only real like warning I'll give you with this is that shooter stance does tend to, because you're locked and you can't move, you're down on one knee and you're just shooting. If people get up on you quick, you're gonna get hit, and you're gonna get hit hard. And sometimes it can be hard to recover from that. So if you want to experiment with some other things on your third skill, feel free to do that. So now let's talk about the passives you're gonna want to run on the sharpshooter tree. So first we have critical reload. So it's gonna be landing 3 headshots within 5 seconds of each other, grants an instant reload. This is written weird. It is within 5 seconds of each shot. It's not like you have to hit 3 headshots within 5 seconds. So just to clarify. And then we're going to take empowering headshot. So this is on a successful headshot, grant empower, which increases all musket shot damage by 10% for 5 seconds. Super strong, just a 10% buff when we hit a headshot. So next we're going to take ballistic advantage. So this is going to remove the damage fall off from any standard musket shots from more than 50 meters away. This is super important because of the next passive we take, which is hit your mark. And that's going to increase the headshot and critical damage to targets further than the further they are away from us, basically. And that is up to a maximum of 15% at 100 meters. Now, this does say at the bottom, this does not forego the fall off damage, right? So by that, they mean if it's 100 meters away and you don't have ballistic advantage, you're still going to do less damage. You're not going to do 15% more damage at 100 meters because of the damage fall off. You're still going to do less damage. It's just 15% more than you would have done if you didn't have it. But because of ballistic advantage, now it is just 15% more because it removes the damage fall off. So then we're going to take heightened precision. So this is while aiming, successful hits with the musket grant a stackable 2.5% weapon damage, and this effect stops when player either stops aiming or 5 seconds has elapsed. So it stacks up to 6 times, so this can be a total of 15% extra weapon damage as long as we're hitting shots. And that's not even just headshots, that's just shots in general. So the more shots we hit in a row, the more damage we're going to do. So then we're going to take the last perk, or the last passive in here, which is going to be Sniper. And that adds an optional 3-time zoom for musket aim shots and the mouse wheel up and whatever. To be honest, I really don't use this. I think the only reason to take this is that it grants 15% damage increase to all headshots. That's really the only reason to take it. And really, it is a super strong buff. It's just a passive 15% buff to all headshots. So that's going to do it for the sharpshooter tree. So let's move on to the trapper tree. So in the trapper tree, this is the other mandatory, I think, skill that I would take if you're looking to PvP, and that is traps. So this throws a trap down that lasts for 20 seconds. When it's triggered, it causes the target to be rooted and immobilized for 3 seconds. The reason why I think this is so strong is because of how much you can amplify this thing to make it really, really be beneficial. So we're going to take all 3 of the passive nodes underneath trapper, underneath traps, which is going to be trapped damage. So traps apply a rend to targets, increasing their damage of trapped targets by 20% for 3 seconds. So the minute they get trapped, we headshot them, they're going to take 20% extra damage. They're going to take even more because of the passives, but we'll get to that. And then we're going to take Scent of Blood. So this regens 100% of the weapon damage done as health when dealing damage to trapped targets. So let's say you start getting low health in a fight, and we're in really deep shit at some point. We can roll away, switch, throw a trap down, and if they get stuck in it and we headshot them, we're going to heal for however much, which is at level 42, I hit headshots for about 1200. So you're going to heal for like 1200 damage right? It really is a super, super strong ability once we start to take these things. And that's why we take the last passive node, which is double trap. So now we get 2 of these. 2 is always better than 1. So now we can talk about the passives that we're going to take for this tree. So we're going to take Empowering Weakness, which is hitting a target with an active debuff triggers Empower, increasing the damage, increasing the player's damage by 5% for 5 seconds. So when they're trapped by that trap and we shoot them, we're going to get empowered from 2 things now. We're going to get empowered from the Sharpshooter tree for hitting a headshot because they're standing still, so you better be hitting a headshot. And then we're also going to get empowered from hitting somebody with an active debuff. And then we're going to take Weakened Defense. So this really helps us because we're not a strength build. We don't have a Warhammer. We don't have an axe. We don't have anything really to help break blocks. And in PvP, you're going to come across Sword and Shield a lot. Even in PvE, you come across a lot of NPCs that have like a shield out. This helps us break that shield and just get through that a little bit quicker so that we can actually start doing some damage and getting into our spear rotation. And then we're going to take Hustle. So this is after a dodge, we gain haste, increasing our movement speed by 10%. Just gives us another ability to, right? Because like I said, when we dodge to get away and like maybe throw a trap, this is going to give us a little bit of speed boost to get away as well. And then we're going to take Kick them while they're down. So this is a really strong passive node that we're going to be able to take here. Deal 10% extra damage to targets with an active crowd control status effect. So now just in this tree alone, right, an active crowd control status effect and hitting an enemy with an active debuff, we got 15% extra damage done to that target. So that's it for the musket. Like I said, you can kind of flex out shooter stance. That's the one that you can mess around with and play around with, see if you can find something that works a little bit better for you, but that's going to do it. So let's go over to the spear. Let's talk about the spear. The spear really is the highlight of this build and what makes this build really, really fun to play. So let's start by talking about the zoner tree for the spear. The zoner tree is where we're going to spend most of our mastery points. So I'll talk about the skills and then we'll go over the passive. So the first skill we're going to take here is Javelin. So we're going to throw our spear, dealing 125% weapon damage, and then it staggers on hit. Not crazy by itself, but it's the 3 passives underneath that make this this ability really strong. So we're going to take Forceful Impact. So now targets are knocked down on hit. That's awesome. And then we're going to take Refreshing Precision. So headshots now reduce the cooldown by 50%. Huge. And then we're going to take Deadly Distance. So this is going to increase the damage by 2.5% per meter traveled up to 100%. Now, you're very rarely going to be throwing this spear 40 meters and hitting somebody. If you do, good on you. But even if they're 4 or 5 meters away, which is not crazy, you're doing an extra 10 to 12.5% damage. So it really is significant even when they're not crazy far away. So then we're going to take Sweep. So this is going to sweep the target's legs out from underneath of them, costs 75% weapon damage, and knocks them down. So now we have 2 knockdowns on this when we hit them with the Javelin and when we sweep. And then we're going to take Tenacious Sweep. So this just adds grit to Sweep so that we can't get staggered out of it, which is important. So that does it for the skills. Now let's talk about the passives that help amplify those 2 skills and make them really strong. We're going to take Deadly Consistency. So this says 10% damage on consecutive attacks against a single, on consecutive heavy attacks against a single target, I'm sorry. So this is why those knockdowns become huge, right? Because when they're knocked down, we have time to charge up a heavy attack, 2 of those in a row, and they do 10% extra damage. And then we're going to take Deadly Reach. So a plus 10% critical chance on targets that are more than 3 meters away. So when we're throwing that Javelin, we have a 10% extra crit chance when they're more than 3 meters away. And then we're going to take Refreshing Reach. So this is every successful heavy attack reduces all spear cooldowns by 50%. So now we have 50% chance, 50% cooldown reduction for hitting a headshot with the spear. 15% chance for every heavy attack. And you'll start to see how all these cooldown reduction things lead to just this perma-stun that we can do. And then we're going to take Invigorating Crits. So this is going to restore 20 stamina on critical hits. And then we're going to take Merciless Strength. So this is going to do 25% extra damage to knocked down targets. This is huge. Again, we have 2 knockdowns in this build. Now we have sweep and we have our javelin throw. So these are going to both allow us to do 25% extra damage when they're on the ground. So if we hit them with a heavy attack while they're on the ground, it's going to be huge. And then we can take defensive stance. Again, we're going to be using a lot of heavy attacks here. So now we're going to gain fortify when we use a heavy attack, getting us 15% damage absorption. And then we're going to take strong conditioning. So this is plus 30% stamina regen when your stamina is below 50%. Again, another reason why we can just dodge around and do heavy attacks, because we're getting a lot of stamina when we do run out, or when we get low. And then we're going to take reserved strength. So this is going to be a 25% damage increase while we're at full stamina. Huge. All these stamina increase and giving us stamina back. A lot of the time, by the time you heavy attack, your stamina bar has filled back up, and it's going to do 25% extra damage. So now let's talk about the Impaler tree for our spear. We don't take a ton here, but what we do take is extremely beneficial. So the skill we're going to take in Impaler is Vault Kick. So this uses the spear to vault kick, dealing 75% weapon damage and applies a 1.5 second stun. You can taunt gem this. We're not necessarily going to do that here, just because this is more of a PvP build. I don't really see the point. And then we're going to take the 2 passive nodes underneath that. So Relentless Blows. We're going to gain Empower after successful hits with the target that are below 50% health. Again, this is why like using a gun or a bow is really useful here, because we can get them low by the time they get to us, which means we can instantly use this to stun them when they get to us and get a 20% increased damage. And then we're going to take Continuous Motion. So this is going to reduce the cooldowns of all of our spear abilities when we hit this ability, when we hit with Vault Kick. So now you can see why all of these different cooldown reduction things start to make it where you can perma-stun. So let's talk about the 2 passives that we take here, and then we'll move on to like why and how this it's almost a rotation for the first time in New World that I feel like I really had like some form of rotation that I had to follow. So starting from the top, we're going to take Refreshing Jabs. So this is all spear cooldowns are reduced by 10% on the second hit of the light attack chain. Again, and just another way to reduce our cooldowns if you're fighting someone where you feel like you don't have time to get off a heavy, which you should, because they're constantly CC'd, and I mean constantly. If you don't feel like you can though, and you maybe you missed a couple of your attacks, and so all your cooldowns are still up, then maybe you can use this to light attack a little bit and help get those cooldowns down. And then we're going to take Finishing Blows. So this is a 15% damage increase to targets with less than 30% health. So now when we Vault Kick into somebody with less than 50% health, we're going to get a empowered buff for 20% increased damage, as well as once they get below 30%, we're going to have 15% extra. So 35% increased damage to targets below 35 or 30% health whenever you have both those buffs up. So super helpful. So I do want to talk a little bit about why we're able to do what we do and how this rotation is working and what's making it so strong and how you're able to perma CC here. Because in reality, there really is no reason why you should ever lose a 1v1 with this build. So let me show you this clip real quick of me losing this 1v1 duel. I dueled this guy twice because the first time I messed up. I missed 2 abilities. I missed my first knockdown, which really hurt. And then because you'll see he really messed me up after I missed my first knockdown. And then I missed the heavy attack that would have ended the duel. The Z axis in this game, I'm telling you, it's weird. The up and down is weird because sometimes people will be on the ground and you need to literally like move your mouse and look at them if you want to make sure you hit. If your mouse is aiming straight forward, a lot of the times you'll just go right over the top of them. It really is tough. But the first one I should have won, so I redueled him again. He was super cool about it, helped me out. And the second one we won, no problem. And it's because we actually hit the things that we were supposed to hit. So I'll show you and walk you through a little bit through how this went down. So I knew he was gonna open with a heavy attack. So I made sure to block here because he's gonna have grit and we can't trip him with grit, but we can stun him during grit. So we tripped him here after he went for the heavy. We get the heavy attack in. I go for the stun, but I missed it, which stinks. If we would have hit that, we would have had another trip, but that's okay because he whiffs a couple of attacks here. So we knock him down. We hit him with a heavy attack, trip, and then we go into a heavy stun. And then you go back into a heavy, and then it ends the duel here because I crit him, but I was gonna go for another knockdown. And that really is the kind of rotation that you want to follow here. It's going to be you lead with the trip into a heavy, into the stun, into a heavy, into the javelin for another knockdown, into a heavy, and right back into sweep. So you can just do that cycle over and over and over again because the cooldown reduction is so massive. So that's going to do it for this one. I appreciate you guys stopping by again. Let me know how this build works out for you guys in PvP, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye.